From the reality that his football career crumbled in its finest hour. He's climbed hills before and now faces perhaps the tallest.
16 months ago, Bratton had the world on a string, a first-rounder to be at running back on the top team of the country, the Miami Hurricanes. So close, yet so far. In the fourth quarter of the Orange Bowl, with Miami rolling past Oklahoma for the national championship, with Bratton's career at its peak, he took a hit and blew out his knee. Last year, it was a gamble, but the Dolphins invested a 6th-round draft pick on Bratton, knowing that he faced a long rehab. Bratton did not sign. He did pursue the rehab, long and hard, spending the 1988 NFL season working out, unsigned, unpaid, but resolute. He is worth more than a 6th-round draft pick.
Where he will be today as he trains, unable to reach an accord. As of last night with Miami, we will see. He is available to be drafted. Melvin Bratton, a talent. He may not be ready for the beginning of the season. I'll tell you who is ready. The Chicago Bears. They have 2 back-to-back selections, their first 2 of the 3 #1 picks that they have. They have reached a decision. Maybe we'll get both of them back-to-back. Let's get to the podium as we await the word. Bears, one of the 2 teams in the league, 26 signed veteran free agents. The Bengals elected to not dip into that pool. There's some 600 players, and the Bears did the same. Pinchback going over the pronouncer. Maybe we're going to get back-to-back picks, and I think, yeah, we've got 2. So we're going to get 2 names quickly as we get a fix on where Bill Tobin, Mike Ditka, Mike McCaskey are going. This is a team that through the 80s has had 10 #1 picks. 5 of them have played in the Pro Bowl. The commissioner.
All right, Chicago Bears select as a result of a previous trade with the LA Raiders. They used the Raiders' first choice in the first round to select Donnell Wolford.
Defensive back.
Defensive back, Clemson. Then the Bears on their own first round selection. This is a trade from Washington to the Bears. First round choice. Trace Armstrong, defensive end, Florida. Next up, Denver Broncos.
Donnell Wolford, Trace Armstrong, as the Bears make a double dose of some defensive help. And let's take a look at Donnell Wolford, outstanding player for Clemson, who started for 4 years, also returns punts, always threw the tough receiver. First Clemson defensive back to be a first-team All-American ever. This is a guy who's got corner skills and 4.5 speed.
I'll tell you what, Bob, these are 2 great picks for the Chicago Bears, one of the best organizations at evaluating talent in the NFL. See Wolford, how he closes on the football, great reactions, very tough individual, causes interceptions like he did here. You know, just a fine football player. Might lack the recovery speed of Deion Sanders, but he was a 4-year starter. You see him here as a punt return ability. He can put 6 points on the board for you in this capacity. Great choice here. I really thought Phoenix would have to look at Donnell Wolford because of their needs at left corner. I think it's a great pick. Trace Armstrong, I thought, was one of the most underrated players in this draft. I think he will be more productive early in his career than Bert Grossman, and that's saying an awful lot because I'm high on Grossman as well.
He transferred, didn't he?
Transferred from Arizona State. Very highly competitive individual, probably the toughest player in this draft, along with Darrell Johnston from Syracuse.
He didn't play, though, in the pro season. He had some knee problems, went to the combine, and at that point really was only able to show his strength doing some reps. So it took a while to get a fix on him in this postseason. Well,
he had 2 minor knee injuries, Bob. They were arthroscopic knee injuries with cartilage damage. He's fine now. He tested out well prior to the draft. Trace Armstrong is fine. He's in great shape, and he will be a great addition to a team, the Chicago Bears, that were desperate for defensive line help and desperate for a cornerback to work opposite Bestie Jackson.
This guy has run some 4.8s, Trace Armstrong. We have him down at 4.9. So all the talk of the trade, the possibility, and Jim McMahon's ego being bruised, as you heard the discussion from Chris and the guys about, yeah, you talk about a trade, and the trade doesn't come off, but it didn't come off. And so, as again, we will recap what we have seen to this point in the first round. Donnell Wolford, Trace Armstrong. The Denver Broncos are up next with approximately 13 minutes to make that pick, to be followed by the New York Jets. So the talk of a 3-way has not happened. We haven't seen that yet. We understand, again, if you have just joined us, that indeed Mike Merriweather has signed with his new team. Minnesota has reached an accord. So apparently now that number 24 pick, if you're doing the draft with us at home, will belong to Pittsburgh as compensation as part of that trade. And now we wait to see what Denver does. Denver got up to the plate last year in the first round and didn't even foul it off. It was like woof, 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 down and out against Ted Gregory, traded to New Orleans before the season even had a stubble of a beard on it.
Well, they need help on defense, but I think all their defensive players that they might be looking at here, Donnell Wolford, Trace Armstrong, and Eric Hill, players like this are gone. I think you can't force a defensive need choice in this spot. You have to look at the running back, fullback position. They need a complete player in that capacity. I think Cleveland Gary from Miami would be a great pick here. So I think you'd have to go against your needs and take the best player on the board, and I really believe Gary is the best player here.
Well, Denver owner Pat Bowlen has the money to spend because he flashed that wad in front of Bruce Smith, and of course that trade didn't go down. Donnell Wolford, Trace Armstrong selected by the Bears, and Pete Axtell out at Bears headquarters in Lake Forest. The trade didn't go down, but the Bears, by at least our wisdom here, picked up two darn good players.
Thank you, Bob. The Bears, not surprisingly, they built their reputation on defense. They went for these two very good defensive players. A minority opinion on that is Al Davis, who traded Willie Gault for that number 11 selection, says there is no player in his draft that's going to go 11th that I would want better than Willie Gault. So that's one thought on the matter. He said there's other ways to build a team than the draft. Going back 2 choices to Miami, yes, I'm shocked. I thought they would take Eric Hill. They're desperately needing linebackers, having gotten rid of Hugh Green and Bob Brzezinski. I really thought they would take Hill. A lot of people thought they would take Louis Oliver, the strong safety. They went for the running back, Sammy Smith. I'm so puzzled. The last time I was this puzzled by a Don Shula draft selection, it was some guy he took in the last choice of the first round. I think his name was Marino. Let's go to Kevin Kiley in Anaheim for some other thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Well, I'm out here. I think I could hear a collective sigh when Trace Armstrong went in that last draft pick to the Bears. Armstrong is a guy that defensive coordinator of the Rams, Fritz Shermer, went down to Florida to see. He's an up-the-field pass rusher, and that's one of the Rams' really desperate needs. They have free agents along that defensive front. They're also looking at Bill Hawkins out of Miami, so they're hoping he's going to be around later. The defensive line, of course, for the Rams is a primary need. Donnell Wolford, I think, fits very well, those 2 picks for the Bears, because they like to play pressure defense, and they need cornerbacks that can play man-to-man, and Wolford out of Clemson did a great job at man-to-man for Clemson. He'll play that with the Bears, and, of course, Armstrong getting upfield, they'll be able to get the kind of pressure that they would like. I'd also like to talk a little bit about that Sammy Smith draft pick by Miami. Everybody's kind of down on it, but I think you need to remember that Sammy Smith was a potential Heisman candidate going into the year. He's a guy that can really play. The question about Smith was whether he could stand the physical punishment, whether he could stand up to the pounding. If he does, he'll take a lot of pressure off Dan Marino, who has not been effective over the past few years. So if Smith works out, he's going to be a great draft pick for Miami. And remember, if you take a defensive guy, that the offense on the other team can run away from that guy. So let's take a good look at Sammy Smith. He may be a little bit better. We'll be back with more of ESPN's draft coverage in a moment.
Pick number 13 belongs to Tommy's favorite team, the Denver Broncos. I think we can say that safely, but it may not belong to them for long because the trade is in the works with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, a team that I know wanted to move up 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 places, a team that would like a wide receiver. And what's happened is neither Ryson, Hartley Dykes, or little Metcalf, a guy who's a running back who could be a wide receiver, they're all available if Cleveland does make this deal, which we'll find out about. Why don't we find out about right now?
To recap this trade, Denver trades the current choice, their 13th pick in the first round to Cleveland for Cleveland's 1st, Cleveland's 2nd, Cleveland's 5th, and Cleveland's 9th. So Cleveland is selecting in Denver's place on the first round, and they choose Eric Metcalf, running back, Texas.
Well, there's kind of a surprise. I would say that's
the New York Jets.
Some sort of a shocker. Let us first go with Denver, Tommy. Here's a team that needs defense, but Louis Oliver is probably the highest-rated defensive player on the board, and that's the one position the Broncos are set on defense, right, at safety?
Well, Louis Oliver, Denver has Dennis Smith and Mike Harden. Both are Pro Bowl caliber performers, and I think that when you look at that, Denver is thinking that the defensive talent that's left on the board will still be available when they get down to the 20th pick with